All right, do I hear a motion to approve the June 17th, 2019 legislative meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, reorganization was on the agenda tonight. It doesn't really have to occur according to a discussion I had with the solicitor today, until we appoint a new commissioner or a new commissioner is elected. Correct?
Yes, sir.
And just so that people know if they want to attend that, really the essence of that is appointing a new president and a new vice president. And until that time, the vice president serves as the head of the meetings.
Correct.
All right, commissioner vacancy. We have Amy Richard, who lives on Rhodes Avenue, who has sent us her resume and expression of interest. And Amy, if we could ask you, come to the podium, introduce yourself, and tell us about yourself, please.
And I have not had a chance to read your resume, to be honest. So
Okay. Then I will do
you can
a
expand as
very,
you,
yes.
you can expand as you wish, and I won't get bored.
Well, good. Then that's exciting. Well, hello. Good evening. My name's Amy Richard. I do live at 8 Rhodes Avenue. We've been there now for a little over 5 years since we moved into the township. I'd like to present myself to you and express my interest in the open seat on the board. I bring with my resume over 13 years experience in the education sector and nonprofit sector. I do special education. So I've been the principal and now the vice president of education for special education schools up in Zelienople, Pennsylvania with Glade Run Lutheran Services. In that capacity, I oversee up to 100 staff members, 250 to 315 students with special needs, an $8 million budget, 47 different school district contracts, and then numerous stakeholders on top of that, including children and youth, probation, case managers, things of that nature. We do serve a vulnerable population, so with that, that I hope comes through on my resume is the fact of the politics and the diplomatic nature of serving vulnerable populations and families in crisis at that time. So with that, then I think it translates to a fair decision making, the ability to come to the table and have conversations, the ability to ask good questions, and then the ability to problem solve and reach consensus with the group. That's really the nature of what I do every day in my position. Before I was at Glade Run, I worked for Watson in the East Liberty section of Pittsburgh at their Friendship Academy, which is similar to what I do now, just a different school. On top of that, so personally, my husband and I live with our sons. I have a 19-year-old who's just finished his freshman year at Marietta College, and my youngest who's entering kindergarten. So very diverse household when it comes to ages. So it can get a little hectic with that, but we're really excited. So, so I think that sums up my resume. Although it's still a fascinating read. Are there any questions for me?
Has your work included dealing with infrastructure type issues like roads and sewers and water systems?
It does not overall in general. The only time I have encountered that, we did a campus transformation where we actually demolished a lot of things and then redid our roads on our campus. So I was able to be part of that process. Then most recently, I was actually able to be in on a mixed income housing tax credit that we're waiting to hear from the state on. So again, I would say dipping my toes into it, but I do get exposure to then the construction end of that.
How about public safety type issues, police, fire, emergency management?
Yes, so the emergency management and the crisis and the police and all that, I would say is a forte of mine. Even keeping my particular population safe. We do have to call the police a couple times a week and involve them for crisis situations, and then on top of that is the regular kind of emergency management that I do have to be part of. Active shooter drills, fire drills, crisis, handbooks, emergency communications. So a general awareness of that at all times. And on top of that, my students can be aggressive and dangerous at times, and we have to contain them and then help the community. So I always work with the police in those moments. If we have a student who elopes campus. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. Absolutely.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else that I can help answer?
She's reviewing your resume.
I looked at it before, I was just looking at it again. So it looks like you have pretty good experience dealing with the public in general, social issues, and, hooking up the consensus building is very good, by the way. No, I don't have any other questions.
Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Amy, and so,
Thank you.
so that you know, we're trying to develop a timeline, which isn't exact at this point. We want to make it as simple and long-term as we can. So Commissioner Dodler's term runs out December of 2021, so it would be 2.5 years if we appointed somebody today. But we're trying to determine how best to deal with some of the regulations in regard to running an official election. So we'll be in touch.
I can certainly understand. Thank you.
Asked Chris this, depending on the timing of the appointment, might she have to run before 2021?
I don't believe so.
I thought,
You have the blue book?
The blue book sort
Glenn
of
has it. My
dances around
understanding
that.
was,
thought you had to run for the election the next time there was a general election.
I thought that meant November though.
On page 3, it said that if we appoint somebody and there is an election more than 60 days later, they have to run for office.
Right. I had looked at this originally.
Why don't you look at that while we're doing other things?
Yeah, I know Harlan and I discussed this. Let me read this and I'll.
Yeah, we'll move on.
Yeah, that's
The
the issue.
campaigning is
There's
not
some
real heavy
question in
duty.
the code of how the appointment should happen. So we have to have
Yeah.
solicitors review it before we do it, move forward with it.
So we're trying to interpret the regulations so we don't make a mistake, is the bottom line. All right, there is a motion on the table which was deferred for the Verizon franchise agreement ordinance.
It was not deferred yet, so we
We're
can't,
waiting for,
we need to advertise it, and it did not get advertised in time for
Okay.
adoption for next month. So what you have in your packet is a copy of the ordinance and a copy of the proposed franchise agreement for you to review. It will not be on for next week for adoption because I need more time to get
Okay.
it advertised. It'll be on for August, but if you could, read it and then be ready with any questions. So Harlan will be here next week.
So no action tonight.
No action tonight, just, it's in your packet, and now you have the copy of the ordinance and a copy of the agreement for your review.
All right. And the property management at 690 Glen Mitchell Road. Can you update us?
Sure. That is the Norman Meter's auto body, and he came in to talk to me after he watched the meeting, and we officially notified him that the board had motioned to contact the DEP, and he wanted to talk about that. Yes, in your packet you have.
Look in your packet for things that he submitted.
You have a letter, an email from him discussing the documentation that he brought me, and then you have copies of a lot of the documentation that he brought me where he was showing that he proactively went to the DEP to get the regulations for the oil burning furnace, and he has the contact information of what they sent him, who he spoke to at the time, the regulations, and he has more regulations there. And then he also provided the receipt for the tire collection. So he was hoping that this would be sufficient to show that he is managing his site according to the rules.
I don't think, personally, I don't find, just paperwork is sufficient. I think site inspection should always go just to check everything, make sure everything's done correctly. This is not, should make things difficult for Mr. Mina, but it's just make sure that everything's being done correctly. And if there are any deficiencies, to get him up to speed on what he should or should be doing, should or should not be doing. You know, I mean, this is all good stuff. It's just, I would feel better about just knowing that, you know, that someone went out there and looked at the entire site and made sure that everything was done properly. That's my response on that. I'm not trying to be difficult with Mr. Meaner. I just would like to know that, you know, the condition of his site, you know, what, are there any issues or not? I would like to maybe even have photographs of what the property looks like and what kind of state it's in. That's just, that would make me feel better about environmental compliance. I don't think I could go by paperwork alone. That's why we do site inspections with everything else, so. That's my take on the matter, thanks.
When during your, the visit by Norm, what would, did you get any feel for his attitude toward our, what we set up as process and procedures with the DEP and so on and so forth? In other words, where we've already told him that we are going to be bringing in and tracking through the DEP. Was there any reaction, positive, negative? None whatsoever?
No, he wasn't excited about it.
I wouldn't be either.
Safely say that, yeah. I hate to speak for him, but it sounded like he was not sure where the concern about this was coming from, and was just concerned about it.
Yeah.
It was not excited about it. So.
And did he say that all the oil that he's burning is oil that's generated in his operation on the property?
We didn't have a conversation about where the oil comes from.
Well, that's an important part of the conversation.
Just what we've learned from what happened with Culligan. I mean, they could produce lots of paperwork and show all sorts of things, but we never would have discovered that if it wasn't for our folks going out there and looking, right?
Right.
I think that is my concern, that, you know, we just make sure everything's being done properly so we avoid any future issues with the township or neighbors. There is, you know, liability if pollutants move off your property, or if you're not disposing of things properly. If you're burning things that shouldn't be burned, stockpiling things, creating hazards. I just want to make sure that, you know, if he's confident that his property's in order, then there shouldn't be no issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I asked the question as to what his reaction was now that this is the third or fourth time this has gone around while in my tenure. And now we're making it more formal, that there will be evaluations from time to time. And you're right, nobody's going to like that. Didn't expect him to. But if he jumps up and down and gets overly upset, that would be a strong message to me.
Other states, they regularly send, I don't know how Pennsylvania goes because I've only lived here since 2011, but in other states, you know, DEP is manned well enough where almost every gasoline station, every auto butter shop, they get a regularly one visit per year at least to make sure that they're just doing everything properly. It's just a housekeeping visit, basically.
Well, the 40 CFR to section 279.23 that he provided to the plan specifically said that he may burn used oil in his space heaters, provided that the oil is generated on site in his operation, or he gets it from, quote, household do-it-yourself used oil generators. So it's important to know where the oil is coming from, because that's an indication of what's likely to be in the oil.
Yeah.
So we passed the motion unanimously, and then we deferred action to give him notification this was occurring.
Correct.
He then responded.
Correct.
From what I'm hearing, there's no motion forthcoming to cancel the action.
I would like to stick with my position, I would just feel more comfortable. But, if you wanna provide other information, you know, I'm open to listening, but that's how I feel at the matter. Right now, that's how I feel about it.
Maybe as a preliminary step, so we're a little better informed, Gwen might ask Mr. Meaner to where he's getting the oil and what records he keeps of the oil in terms of source and being burned and any analytical work that's been done on the oil.
When we had, at one point, he had determined he might come to a meeting.
He did not say that I mean, I told him that he's always welcome to come to a meeting, and he was, his first thought was to let his documentation come speak.
So are we giving Gwen the right to ask a few more questions before she calls the DEP?
Would be my suggestion.
Go ahead.
Is that all right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
All right,
we
Yep.
still don't have any good answers, we'll just go back to our, to move from.
So-
I'm gonna ask him where is he getting
Where's he
the
getting
oil?
the oil?
Okay,
And if he has any analytical work on the oil.
any comments? Art? Don?
No, if we determine the source of the oil, the next question would be, you know, to make sure that, that all of the oil that he is generating on site. And if not, does he obviously then has, for some reason or another, a outside supplier.
I was also concerned about storage issues as well.
Yeah.
And then if anyone here or anyone in the audience or anyone watching has additional questions they would like Gwen to ask prior to our inviting the DEP to the site, feel free.
Matter of fact, when you're talking to him, ask him if his storage tank that he uses for oil storage is registered with the DEP.
George, I would have a question, please. If he,
Please, Art.
Art Capuzzi, Weber Road, if he's mixing it with commercial fuel oil and burning it, or is that his only
We don't know.
source, so to say?
We don't know what his source is, that's why we're
Yes.
asking when to
That
go
was,
back and ask him.
that was the purpose of my last question. You would assume that that all of his, according to the records, that all of the oil he's burning is generated on site, which means that it has debris in it. But what happens if he runs out of that oil in the middle of the winter, needs some heat, so if he mixes it, where's the source of that?
You believe, and I believe, that inspections are inherent to the operation of a body shop or repair.
Other states they are, I thought they would be the same here in Pennsylvania.
Would you be willing to Google search that through the
Sure.
DEP or call them?
Sure.
He has to be registered in some fashion with the DEP for them to know that he exists.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's true as
You're
well,
doing an
if he never
inspection.
registered.
Well,
he
let's-
needs to.
Let's find out what that is, because, all right. All right, so there's no action other than we're gonna get some more information before you call the DEP. Gwen?
and I will try to get in touch with him and try to have an answer before next week if
Yeah.
I'm able to discuss it with him.
Commissioner Jones, if you would want to go back to the commissioner vacancy, I can.
Yep, go ahead.
Sure. Based upon my read, section 530B3, because Commissioner Dobler's resignation has already been tendered, the appointee will have to run in the November election.
From your read, is resignation the same as moving out of the territory?
I had asked Carl today, he said the resignation would occur on the day he moved out.
June 28th.
Right. So if you did the 45 days, you'd only get till mid-August, and then your 60 days brings you to mid-October. And I don't think we can get past the election.
Okay.
Okay, so that means that the new person would have to be a write-in.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
an appointment first and then a write-in.
Yes.
Appointment, then run for the remainder
Or-
of the term.
There are a couple of other options.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So for those in the audience and those watching on TV, we have a vacancy. We have one apparently very qualified candidate. If others are interested, please let us know soon. All right. In your packet, you'll also find rules for meetings of the Board of Commissioners. We won't take any action on this tonight, but read them through if you choose. They simplify and clarify the rules of our meetings, which I think grew complicated when there was a significant lawsuit amongst the commissioners. And I think I read through these. Matt basically drafted this. I think they're pretty clear. I like them.
Oh, we generated this.
We generated this.
Okay.
And so read them through, see what you think. If you want to add or delete, let us know. There's no rush. But when Matt showed them to me before he resigned, I liked the clarity. New business. Gwen, you want to do this? You want me to do this?
You wanna start?
Sure. Roads and Avenue has some repairs that are required. Amy, perhaps you can fill us in, but there's been a drop in a section of the road. So, we've had a geotechnical engineer there twice. We've had our own engineer there. We've had Public Works there on a number of occasions. And the first step is to authorize our engineer, HRG, to seek proposals for bids to repair what needs to be repaired. And I don't see it in the packet, but it's not an extraordinary number. It's within this year's budget. So all we're doing is authorizing him to get some bids. Correct, Gwen?
Correct. This is just authorizing HRG to start the process of getting the numbers of what people are, what they think it would cost. So it's just starting the process. It's not picking anything or spending any money yet.
Curious, what's the length of this roadway and width? Like how long is that road? I don't remember. I'm sure it's a long time.
How long is the road, Amy?
There's 11 houses on it.
Quarter mile?
Yeah, yeah.
The section that
Are we
needs-
talking about paving the whole thing?
No.
Or just
No.
fixing
No.
this part that's?
The section that needs to be repaired is 100 feet.
Okay.
There was a hurricane many years back, and FEMA actually paid to build a wall on part of roads. And on the Red Gate side of roads, you can see some collapsing. We're hoping that it was due to some repairs that were made prior and the ground simply wasn't properly compacted. But we're also looking at the geotechnical aspects.
And we're not talking, the part that's unpaved, why is that portion unpaved? Was it just long-term, like why was it?
Yeah.
never paved?
It's paved. The
So
road is
the
paved.
entire, I
Yes.
thought someone said
It's
the end
paved.
was a dirt section or something.
No, the whole road is paved all the way back.
Okay.
This is one section where the pavement is slipping a little bit and they want to bring somebody in to just.
I think there's a
build it.
private drive at the very end that leads up to
Okay,
the,
Yeah.
all right, that's what I was getting confused.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
The
yeah,
preliminary cost estimate.
18-ish.
Well, 20,000 with contingency.
So this is something that's in our roads budget this year. And like I said, we're just authorizing HRG to begin the process. It needs to be fixed.
And they're gonna be here next week, so we can discuss other
Yes.
things with them, because I'm still looking for more information on the traffic calming proposal from them. And I would like to discuss, I don't know if this is still old business, though, I can bring it
That's all
up
right,
now. I actually went out and looked at the evacuation route proposed for the manor. And I looked at another one that Judy had mentioned. And the one for the manor, which I guess we may have that right away there.
One of them, we think we have a right of way, but they still need to do.
Okay,
to confirm
well,
that.
Vescio is the end of that road in the manor, it goes into a backyard, and then it's a very steep hill up to connect to a asphalt cul-de-sac at the end of Vescio Road. And it's a very steep road, and it's quite a bend.
Yeah.
And I think it might require a lot more fill and a lot more effort, and I don't even know if they'll have space for the turning radius for a fire truck there. I went and looked at the other location at the end of Sweetly Heights Manor, where that gravel drive comes through, and that's like more of a straight shot, less fill, but you would have to do some paving or geotextile or something. I'm just wondering, I think it may be actually more cost-effective and easier to design if we did the Sweetly Heights Manor exit versus the Vescio exit before we go too far. So I just wanted to put
Good.
that out there.
No, they are coming to the meeting. They have drawings of the road markings for traffic control. I believe they're gonna present an analysis of the two options, but we're looking at some legal
Are they
aspects.
looking at both options? Does it
Yes.
sound to me
Oh,
like
yeah.
they're looking at
They're
both?
looking
They
at
are,
both.
Oh, okay,
they
good,
are,
good.
hopefully, yes. I don't know that they're gonna have the legal research done yet, but they're
No.
gonna come here next week, and Ben has, gotten some cost estimates and some ideas for the paving, so that'll be part of his presentation. And then the two possible options for an emergency exit, he's gonna talk about those. There's nothing will be ready to vote on yet, because I think we'll still have to figure out the right of way. We want to have one right of way that may come alongside, in between houses along Vescio, and then that other one that you're talking about is a shorter distance, but that's a private drive that it would connect to, so there would be legal issues as far as that. So Ben will come and explain a lot. of
Okay,
that
I
stuff.
just didn't know if he was actually looking at the
Oh,
other
yeah.
option.
Yes.
I thought we were just looking at the one, and I was like, oh my gosh, this
So-
might not even work. I didn't want to go too far.
He will be here, we
Spending
can ask him
time.
any of these subjects.
Great,
There's at
okay.
least 3 that I know of, but we're not gonna prematurely discuss things we don't know the legal aspects for.
No problem. I just wanted to make sure that we looked at the issues with the
Has-
one at least, because I thought there might be some.
Has the,
It's, yeah.
has the
it's-
fire chief been involved?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's aware of both locations.
Okay, is he going to be here to listen to these people?
Tough to tell.
Unless he
He
has
does
fire.
training on Monday nights, so
But they-
it's tough to tell when he's gonna be
The
available.
engineer's talking to them about, can we get a fire truck in, can we get it
Yeah,
out, that
right.
sort of thing.
We have an eminent domain power.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how we did the sewer project.
Yeah, we have eminent domain.
Okay.
Just curious.
So
So we
did you-
need a-
And that's for
No, no.
health, safety, and welfare. I mean, that's clearly an obvious.
All right, so we need a motion to authorize HRG.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
So
We want to
motion
defer that
passed.
until, we defer it until next week.
You can.
Yes.
It may be that a situation where if he's just gonna go and make some phone calls, he might, within this week, before he comes next week, he might have time to accomplish it
Then let's not
this week.
defer it.
If you wanna
Okay.
just vote on it, and then,
Good.
Yeah, it's just.
he might be able to get some
Yeah, because this
information
isn't really,
by his
this
appearance.
is the beginning of a process, so,
You're not
Yeah,
spending
that's
money
fine.
yet.
I agree.
all right?
We'll talk about the engineering study for the
Yeah.
same thing.
No.
Oh, the geotech.
All right, is there any other new business?
Yes, I wanted to put on, to discuss, and I already
This yours?
talked briefly, with
No,
Art
please.
about this, is for next, when the police are here next, I'd like to discuss, not necessarily at our legislative meeting, but if they prepare for the following month, I would like a presentation on, how our officers are trained in dealing with people with mental health issues in our township.
Yes.
I just want to make sure they have, the most current training, understanding of mental illness, how to deal with people with aggression or any issues like that. I already discussed with Art, and I just want to make sure it's on our agenda to get some information from
She and I had a discussion with this, about this specific part of,
Who's she? I'm sorry.
you and I
Oh,
had.
yeah, yes, we did. I'm like, I thought you were
Us,
talking
we.
about the police department. Sorry, yes.
And about 6 months ago, I visited with the chief for a couple of hours and went over their process and procedure for shooting incidents, which I'm still working on slowly. But there was nothing, we were not covering anything in aspect whatsoever. We were completely over, on a completely different map. So I think this would just broaden our scope.
You know, you just hear
Well,
stories
I
of people being accidentally shot because they don't understand the person might have
Sure.
a mental health issue. And there's all sorts of trainings in Pennsylvania, but some municipalities are not as well trained as others, and I would just like to know where our guys are.
I think if you phrase that succinctly when Officer Haney is here next week, ask him.
Okay,
Yeah.
And then if there's a follow-up required,
Yeah,
We'll
'cause
continue.
our budget with them doesn't call, only calls for one appearance a month.
okay, but he should know
Yeah.
that then.
Don't
yeah,
just
and then we can follow it up.
Okay,
Or even give them a heads up before the meeting.
When will you do that?
I will do that. I'll
When
let him
will
know
do
that
that?
that's something, that's a topic that, that you're going to let him, you know, so he can at least have a preliminary thought, maybe for next week, if
I
he's
mean, they may
here.
already be trained, I just wanna know what.
I'll let him know,
what it is.
and then he can get started on
And-
trying to
and
find
make-
the information that you need.
Make sure that Chief Haney
Jeff, because my back is turned to you,
Yeah.
focus on Gwen if you have a question. Be
That's
easy.
what
That's good.
Yeah, yeah,
Good.
yeah.
whenever you're talking to Chief, just mention that this has nothing to do with what he and I talked about.
Sure.
For those new in the audience, we used to have a young techie sitting in this chair, and he would have his laptop and do all of this. And a couple meetings ago, we agreed to employ the services of a contractor because we think it's a good idea to do this. It's obviously a good idea to keep recording and putting on YouTube. So, do we have a proposal from the new building inspector? Possible.
You did receive a proposal, you would, just had me make copies for handing out.
Tonight?
Sure.
Yes, let's hand those out. And these will just be reviewed and we can discuss next week. And did you compare it to our current contract?
I haven't looked at it yet. I
All
mean,
right.
I just, yeah, I haven't.
Would you dig up our current contract, please?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's short, send it to us by email. All right, we won't do anything with this tonight, but if you recall,
Yeah.
we requested this and here it is.
Yeah. Okay, so I have one, request for new business, one more.
Go ahead.
At times, I sort of feel like there's a, you know, we have a lot of things we discuss in meetings, and I'm not necessarily what the follow-up is on them. And I might hear it secondhand through Gwen or Matt or yourself, or I don't hear about it again, and maybe the ball might get dropped. So I was wondering if there might be a better way that we could track, you know, our business from beginning to end to resolution, or to, if we couldn't do it, whatever the resolution is on the
I'm
item.
gonna let Gwen explain it, but before Matt left, I attended 2 of their Friday morning meetings, and there is a very elaborate to-do list. Correct, Gwen?
There is.
And I intend to continue those Friday meetings, maybe not every Friday, but at least a couple of times a month. So, Gwen, is that digitally transferable?
I don't, if it is, I don't know how to do it because it's a special software program. So I'll ask. I don't know. I would not know how to do it. So
But you could see it.
That would be nice, I think, if all of us could.
It's very
look
detailed,
see.
and I was surprised at the detail, and I told Matt that I think it's a good idea, and I think we'll continue it, but
I just didn't think it was very open to other people on the board or even the
that's why
public,
I'm
what
asking
we
if
were
if
doing
it's
on certain
digitally
things.
available, we can make it available to everybody, there's no,
Yeah,
but she can come and see it.
sure.
well, it's not just for me, it's for our residents, like we say, we're working on traffic calming and they don't hear about it for months, I want them to know, you know, what we're doing, that we're actually working on it, you know? You know what I'm saying?
We kind of do that on the digest.
Yeah, if we remember to, I think most time we probably do, but like with the evacuation of the manor, Judy said she brought that up, you know, a while ago, and then Matt pulled an old video from a year or so ago, and it was on there in a video, and nothing ever went, it went
It's probably
nowhere.
been 10 years.
It went nowhere. So like things like that really shouldn't happen. So I just want to make sure we're on top of these things and, you know, and open about what's going on with certain things, so people don't have to keep asking or feeling like they're pestering us, or me, like, having to remember everything in my head or write it all down on my own little Post-it sheet, or, you know, I just
I
think
think
tracking it would
come
be-
up and look at what Gwen has.
And we can just keep a list of things that come up, I mean, we can come up, something that comes up at a meeting, and we'll figure out a system where it's whatever conversation, you know, like this subject or something, we can just have a subject list that we do, and then, so we can just keep going back to it. We had done that on the agenda for a while, where everything kind of, open items were at the bottom of the agenda, and then it got really cumbersome to have all those things at the bottom of the agenda.
Okay.
So it kind of fell away for all of us, but we can restart something like that.
I mean,
Where you
even
can
if
have
we
in your
just-
packet, it's just like an open, you know, list of things we're working on.
Yeah, or, you know, we could have just something posted on the board, you know, so when we come
Topics
in,
we
we could
discussed,
say,
you can-
oh,
yeah.
you know, it's been a while.
Refresh everybody's memory on what we talked about.
Okay,
Sure.
it is a special software,
Oh,
I don't know if it's software,
but let's see if we can print
let's
it
see
out.
if we can.
It's
do
very
something like
detailed.
that.
All right, any other new business?
That's it for me.
Citizen participation.
Just maybe to add to something Michelle brought up, regarding the police training, I think it would be, really diligent to maybe add mental health issues and, people on the spectrum with autism, as they would both, require very different approaches, and I know there are trainings for both.
I was
as
actually
separate.
using that as an umbrella.
Yeah.
Because
Oh.
a lot of times they put people with autism under the mental health CCBHO and all that component, so that's why I was thinking of it more generally, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, or at least he would have to address both elements of that.
How they deal with someone that can't speak versus
Yeah.
someone that might have a different diagnosis like schizophrenia.
Correct, yeah,
Yeah,
that's all.
thank you.
Amy,
Yes.
back to the prior conversation, if you can think of things that you would like the police to address, please feel free to send something to Gwen. And that's another new policy. Matt was the head of communications. We've decided that it's best to have people just communicate directly to Gwen. She can read the emails, she can give the emails to us, whatever.
That's a great idea. Like all of going to one place, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
If you have
the
time,
digest,
you
well,
can
I can, well, I'm gonna forward them to you guys, I don't know what's gonna happen. So, I mean, the goal is for the digest to come from the township office now, rather than directly from a commissioner, from Matt. So Kim and I are gonna do our best to keep up with that, and then hopefully the replies, because some people would just reply to the digest email. The replies will come to me, or to Kim. So then we will get them, and we can make sure that they're available here, just like Matt would read any emails he got. We will make sure that we share any emails that we get.
As far as your workload, I mean, Matt would only get, what, maybe a few?
It's not.
The
at a
email
time.
response is
It's
not
not
gonna be hard.
hard.
No,
Okay.
that will be easy to share with the board every time. you
I was
get
just
one.
wondering, like, what you have to do in addition if you take that on.
I will have to learn the digest part, but I'm going to.
Any other citizen participation?
Amy, so are you coming to our legislative meeting?
Yes, certainly. Yeah.
So, I'm going to give, I'm still calling detective, Chief Hanny a heads up on this, and, or Gwen is, you're gonna get.
I'll do it, sure, yeah.
And then, when he comes, you know, if you have extra questions, you can just ask him directly, so, because that's more your field.
Okay, therefore, meeting adjourned.
Stop.
Yeah, push it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, can we just cut out now?
Yep.
Okay.